Hey guys, Matthew, and recently there was a massive Last Epoch update, and I've been absolutely loving the game, really. I hit my first level 100 here. I've been, playing a ton, farming some T6, T7, some of the rare items in the game, making some crazy legendaries. It's been an absolute blast, and what I want to talk about today is essentially how to go about farming efficiently. How do you go about making sure that every single time that you are playing the game, you are being as efficient as possible and getting the most amount of value as possible in terms of drops, because that's what it's all about. Now, to give you guys a quick TLDR of the biggest change this update, it is legendary potential. So what that is essentially, it's the ability to merge a unique item with an exalted item or a purple item in order to make a giga unique item, if you will. So if we look at this, which are called legendaries, if you look at this Soul Bastion, for example, all these red modifiers, the block chance, block effectiveness, and health, were not there before, right? They didn't exist on this item before. Only the mods that are white were actually part of this original item. But then this Soul Bastion dropped with 3 legendary potentials, and then I merged it with an Exalted Shield, which had the T6 block chance, block effectiveness, and health, and I think it also had like armor or something like that, and I got the following modifiers to basically stick to it. So the way that it works is it's random given the amount of legendary potential that you have. So if you have one legendary potential and you need to have 4 stats, 4 attributes on your exalted item, it's going to be a 1 in 4 chance in order to get what you want. Now, here's where it gets tricky. This is all exponentially harder as it goes. So, of course, you have some items in the game which are very rare, such as Omnipotence, or for example, Paranoia, or Raven's Rise, right? These are items that are very, very rare. You're not going to find them very often. Now, not only are they very rare, you need to drop them with legendary potential in order to basically make them the new GG that they could be. So, legendary potential is not weighted, all the same. It is weighted, exponentially harder, right? So most items that you'll find will have, or uniques that you find will have no legendary potential, or 1 legendary potential is pretty common. Then 2 is actually pretty rare. 3 is very rare. I've only found a few, and I've done over 1,000 monoliths, 1,000 maps, if you want to call it that, in the last few days. So I've been absolutely blasting. And then 4, I have yet to even see a single one. So this is rare. So how do you go about making the best legendary items possible? It's very simple. You need to drop a ton of uniques, and this is essentially what I want to talk about in today's video: how to go about farming a ton of uniques and also a ton of exalted items. So before I actually talk about the strategy, I do want to give a quick shout out to Lizard IRL. So I'd highly recommend, if you're interested in this game and learning about this game, he's kind of like the guy. He streams on a daily basis. He's a full-time streamer, so you can totally drop by his stream and ask any questions. Highly recommend doing that. And of course, sub to his YouTube channel. He does a lot of guides, a lot of crafting guides, a lot of pushing the arena and pushing the content. He's basically the end game guy for this game, and his content is really, really good, and he's a super cool dude. So all the links in the description for that. Now let's talk about how to go about doing what is called setting up your web, and this is the meta for endgame farming. If you want exalted items, if you want unique items, this is how you do it, and this is how you are going to get the most amount of profit, if you will, the most amount of juice from your time invested in the game. So here's a quick example of what it could look like when you set it up properly. Now, of course, this is a small test that I did. You could push this way further. I've only probably got about 100-ish nodes in my web. You could easily push this entire thing. Like, this is only one quadrant, right? You could have another quadrant like here and down there and down here. So you could push this to probably about 500 or 4 to 5 times bigger for the entirety of the web. And basically the bigger you push the initial web, the more value you're going to get out of it. So what I'd recommend right now is, if you have a web that is set up that is kind of scuffed, to just hit up a Shade of Orbis, right? Do one of the bosses, which is going to reset your entire web, and then you can go from scratch. But put a TLDR of how it works. Essentially, the idea is that you want to get as many good nodes as possible on your web, and then reset the entire web so that when you go ahead and do these nodes again, they're all going to be really good stuff. So for example, if you look here, we have an exalted, unique, 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 exalted, unique, 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 exalted, unique, exalted, 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 unique, 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 right? And this, I could just go through the entirety of the web, and that's about what it looks like, right? Probably about 70 to 80% of the nodes on my web are either exalted or unique items. It's absolutely insane how much value you get from setting up a web like that. And the thing is, it's very, very simple. Essentially, this is the rules on how to do this and how to set up a proper web. It all starts from the beginning, and then what you're going to do is you're going to expand out to as far as possible until you get to the point where you like to call it the edge of the web, if you will, where every time that you do a single node, it's always going to lead you into basically the shades, right? The bosses. That's the point that you know that you can't go any further. So once you get to that point, you'll basically start doing it again until for another, if you will, part of the web, and then you'll basically want to expand your web and expand and expand and expand through the entirety as big as possible, as big as humanly possible. But the rule that you need to remember is that you want to do the least amount of monoliths as possible. You want to make sure that you are only on your initial clear of the web, you're only getting the good rewards and pathing towards the good rewards. So of course it's impossible to only get good stuff because you're going to need to path to the good stuff. So for example, if this is my starter zone, right? In order to get these 2 uniques, I have to path through the bad stuff. So this is what you would do on your initial run, is you path through the bad stuff in order to get to the good stuff, and you just path outwards in order to get to the edge of your web, and then you'll basically expand and expand. And as you expand, it's the same thing. You only path towards through the bad stuff to get to the good stuff. Now, once you've done that and your entire web is completed, again, this is kind of like a baby web. You could push this way bigger. Once you've done the entire initial run, and you get to the point where your web is kind of completed and there's just, these bosses all over the place and you can't really push it any further and you're kind of stuck, you want to look for one of these. So what these are called Vessel of Chaos, and what they do is they reroll all the rewards. But here's the really neat trick to these. If a monolith, a map, has already been completed, it's going to have a check mark on it, right? And all the ones that have check mark are basically set in stone, which means even when you hit this thing here, it's not going to reroll those. So it's going to take all of these bad nodes, right? So as you're pathing through, so let's just say I'm pathing through here, right? I'm pathing through here, I have a good node there, and a good node there, and a good node there, but I have some pretty bad nodes in the middle. So I'm going to path through the good stuff, right? Bad stuff here, but that's in order to get through the good stuff, so I can keep doing that, right? All getting the good stuff. But all of the remainder that's bad on your initial pathing is not going to be completed. When you hit this, all of those non-completed nodes have a chance of becoming good nodes, right? They have a chance of becoming exalted items or unique items, or specific to your time, the timeline that you're farming. So for example, here I'm farming a Black Sun for shields because I'm looking for a Bastion of Honor, right? So they have a chance, all these bad nodes, to become good nodes. So what you'll do after you hit up the Vessel of Chaos is you'll go back through you'll redo the entirety of your web, and every single good node you will go ahead and complete. Right? So, for example, if I was pathing through here in order to get the good stuff, and all of a sudden I reset my stuff, and I haven't done any of these nodes over here, and one of them is a good one, then I'm going to path through the bad stuff to get to the good stuff again, right? Now, once I've done that, and all of my nodes, again, all the remainder is just bad, I'm going to look for another Vessel of Chaos, and then another Vessel of Chaos. And I want to basically do that as many times as I have Vessel of Chaos available. You can probably get like 5 or 10 of them, even if you were to actually do the entirety of the web. So you can reset your you can reroll the rewards quite a few times per web. The bigger your web is, the more of these you're going to find, and they are always on the edge, sort of the same thing as the shade, right? Now, eventually, you're going to get to the point where you've rerolled all your rewards multiple times, and since you have to pass through bad stuff to get the good stuff, even when you do that, you'll get to the point where basically all of your nodes, or just about all of your nodes, are completed, right? They do have the check mark, and they're done. Now what you'll look for is one of these, which is called a Vessel of Memory. And what it does is essentially resets the entirety of your web. It reverts all completed monoliths, right? All of them are just no longer completed. But every single one that was already completed, right, their rewards stay the same. So because you go through and you get only the good stuff, and then you reroll the bad stuff into potential good stuff, and then you get only the good stuff, and only the good stuff, and only the good stuff, when you hit this node right here, 70, 80, 90% of every single node on your web is going to be good stuff, either unique or, exalted items, right? And that is when you're going to basically recomplete the entirety of your web again, and it's basically just good reward after good reward after good reward after good reward. It's absolutely insane how many uniques and how many exalted items you can farm in a very, very short period of time. Now, I don't know if you can get multiple of these Vessel of Memories per web, but I do know that you want to get your web as big as possible, and you want to get as many Vessel of Chaoses as possible to reroll the bad stuff before you actually go through and hit the revert completed echoes, because you want to have as many good nodes as possible on your web before you hit this stuff, this thing here. Because when you hit this, essentially, it's where you're going to really start getting some massive amount of really good stuff, just back to back to back to back to back. And that is how you're going to be able to get some of the rarest items in the game with potentially good legendary potential. And of course, also how you're going to go about farming, good bases, T7 bases, T6 bases, T20s, T22s, T23s, T24s, whatever it is, to really, be able to then push corruption so that you can stack the good rewards on top of good, good rarity, because corruption adds a lot of rarity to your maps. And the way that rarity works in this game is that it applies not only to the amount of unique items that you're going to drop, but also the amount of exalted items that you're going to drop. And of course, idols and all that good stuff. So you're going to end up with some pretty crazy amount of loot very, very quickly if you set up your web in this way. Anyways, that's all I had for today. If you're interested in more Last Epoch content, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Before I go, though, I want to say a huge thank you to my supporters. So Lycum, Hamad, Max, Georgie, Rascoral, Stan, Brandon. Welcome back, Thomas, Nate, The Great Master, Alex, The Other Alex, Tim, Mercury, Johnny, Scott, Nailed, Kevin, Killer Kev, Dubstep, Alex, Citizen, Inks, and Jarek. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Highly recommend, if you can afford it, and you're getting a little bored of Path of Exile, and you're not interested in the events, this is definitely a game that I would highly recommend picking up. I do have a Nexus link, so essentially this is a partnered link where you can buy the game and I'll get a cut of that as well. So if you want to support the channel and you're interested in trying out this game, link in the description for that as well. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this guide, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.